It is powerful and has the ability to change lives, and so we can never get too many Bibles out and about for people to have access to. We're very fortunate in the nation that we live in to have free access to God's Word at almost at every turnaround we have. But I tell you, there's a lot of countries that it's not that way in. And I know the Gideons work in other countries too, not just in the United States. So certainly appreciate what they do. You know, one of the things, and not to add to, or I guess I am going to add to, so I don't want to say not to add to, but one of the things, you know, when you look at Scripture in Acts chapter 8, there's three things that stick out to me. In verse number 27, you'll notice that it says that there was a man there, and then when you jump down to verse 31, it says some man, and then when you jump down to verse 34, some other man. There is a man, there's somebody out there for you to share the gospel with. And they need some man, that's you, to share the gospel with them. But you're not to tell them about yourself, you tell them about some other man, and that other man is Jesus. Amen? And so just another quick little sermonette there in that sermon that was given. But anyway, thank you, Brother William, for that challenge. We are going to pick up somewhat where we left off on Wednesday night in our Bible geography study, and we have journeyed with Abraham from his journey beginning at the Ur of the Chaldees, and saw his journey through the promised land that God had promised him, and going down into Egypt, back up into the promised land, traveling again to rescue Lot from the kings that had captured him, and then back, and then we kind of shifted from that to a little bit more of a study on, we looked at Jerusalem and how that became kind of the center place of worship for the Israelites, and how David conquered Jerusalem and made that the central location of worship for them. And then we just kind of took off from there. We went and started journeying up the coast of Israel. We looked at Joppa. We have looked at Caesarea by the sea. We traveled from there on up to Mount Carmel. From Mount Carmel, we went to Megiddo, and then from Megiddo to Nazareth. And then from Nazareth, we went to, does anybody remember where we ended up at on Wednesday night? Cana of Galilee. And so, you know, we talked about the miracles that were performed at Cana. And so I shared with you that whenever I went back in, I guess it was 2018, I think is kind of what I've come to the conclusion of. Whenever I had the opportunity to go to Israel, that, you know, from Joppa to Nazareth was day one. Day two, we picked up and went from we went around Nazareth just a little bit, and we went to Cana, and then from there we would remain in the Galilean region, which is that northern region around the Sea of Galilee, obviously, for a couple of days, and so we would leave Cana, and we would go to a place. And if you look at it on the map, I don't know that it's necessarily, it's not really, it's not, the specific place is not identified on this map, nor is it really identified on any. I guess maybe there's some, but none that I could find that would help you. But if you look and you see where on the western side of the Sea of Galilee, where you see Tiberias, and then if you go up just a little bit further north of there, where you have Magdala, almost right there around the Rakath area, is a place by the name of Mount Arbel. Anybody know anything about Mount Arbel? I didn't either when I went. Just was not something that I knew a whole lot about, but Mount Arbel obviously is on the western side of the Sea of Galilee, and it offers, and you'll see it in just a little bit, maybe my picture is not the greatest, but it offers a beautiful view of the Sea of Galilee. Mount Arbel is the highest mountain around the Sea of Galilee. And again, it is kind of situated in between Tiberias and Magdala. And you won't find Mount Arbel mentioned in Scripture. It's not mentioned there, directly named. There is, I believe, and there's a lot of others that believe the same way, that there is a geographical context of its mention, because it overlooks a area, the region really, where much of Jesus' earthly ministry took place. You have the Sea of Galilee, obviously it overlooks that. You have, and we're going to talk about some of these places as we go through, but you have Capernaum, which is obviously Jesus spent a lot of time in Capernaum. You have Magdala, you have Chorazin, you have Bethsaida, and so a lot of those areas where Jesus ministered at during his earthly ministry. Any guesses what event is believed? Like I said, it's not mentioned in Scripture. But anybody have any guesses on any events that are believed to have possibly taken place on Mount Arbel? No guesses? None? What's that? I don't know. I didn't. That's not one I looked into. For those that didn't hear, it was a thought was maybe that was where Jesus had been tempted by Satan whenever he went into the wilderness. Maybe when you start thinking about throwing himself off of this mountain. So there's a possibility, I would say, maybe of that, but that is not one that I have in my notes. Anybody else? There was a battle there. There was a battle there, and there was, and I don't have all the intricate details of it, but it's kind of interesting if you go back and look at the event that took place. The Jews hid in caves on Mount Arbel, and they would eventually be pulled out. They would lower down a basket, and in fact, I should have put the picture of it on there, but I wasn't really going to talk about it. But since Miss Margie brought it up, I'll talk about it. But they had this basket, and they took and lowered this basket down the side where those caves are, and drug those folks out that were hiding in those caves, and killed them. But any other thoughts or ideas on any biblical events from Mount Arbel? So it is thought or believed that Mount Arbel is possibly the location that, if you just look over Mark chapter 6. A lot of belief that Jesus spent some time here in prayer. Mark chapter 6 and verse 46. This just prior to Jesus walking on the water. And whenever you look at it, this is to me, whenever I saw this and began to put things together, I could absolutely see this, because Jesus, Mark chapter 6, verse 46 says, "And when he had sent them away, he departed into a mountain to pray." And so this is obviously the highest mountain around the Sea of Galilee, and it would have made sense, geographically speaking, for where they had been, where they were coming from. And so Jesus very possibly could have been on the top of Mount Arbel, and where he would have very clearly seen the events taking place. And, when you look at this and you see all that gray around the Sea of Galilee, that is because the Sea of Galilee sits down in a bowl. And so whenever you begin thinking about all the storms that took place, when a storm comes across the Sea of Galilee, it's a storm. Because all that just funnels down in there, and there's just nowhere for it to go. And so, because it's surrounded, it's down below everything else. But I could see Jesus being on the top of Mount Arbel praying. And so, as the disciples have set forth to go across the Sea of Galilee, and Jesus knew there was a storm coming. And no doubt, now I don't necessarily believe that Jesus had to be in that position to be able to see them and know what was going on, but it certainly makes sense to me that he would have an easy eye on exactly where they were and what they were doing, and how they were being affected, and so you have this situation that could have taken place there. Others believe that this is whenever, in fact, if you go over to Matthew chapter 28, in verse 16 says, "Then the 11 disciples went away into Galilee, into a mountain where Jesus had appointed them." And so there's also the belief that this is the mountain where Jesus could have given the Great Commission to his disciples. Now, obviously, yes, there are other mountains around there, but Mount Arbel was a place of significance for them. It was, it really, because of how it is, it's not a hard climb to get to the top of Mount Arbel. It's really not. It's high and it's steep, but again, so Mount Arbel, while not specifically mentioned, has some significance there. By many that believe that Jesus spent time in prayer there. This is possibly the place of where the Great Commission was given, and so we'll look at a couple of pictures from Mount Arbel. Again, not a whole lot that I have, but you can go ahead and go to the next slide, Brother Adam. That is Mount Arbel. And so you can see, and you can look around and you can see little places around it where there's caves that go into the side. Those would have been the locations where, many would have hid. The Jews would have hid from the Romans during that time. And so that is Mount Arbel. You can go to the next slide. This is from the top of Mount Arbel, looking out, and you can see the Sea of Galilee there on the other side. Again, not the greatest picture, just because it was a little bit cloudy and overcast, but certainly a beautiful view when you get the whole picture of the Sea of Galilee there. Go to the next slide. I think we're at the next. So from Mount Arbel, we would leave and go to a place called Magdala. Anybody know anything about Magdala? Mary Magdalene. That's where Mary Magdalene is from. Anybody else? So, a little bit of backstory on Magdala. It was a fishing town. It was on the western side of the Sea of Galilee, and it is, as you can see, based on the map, you can see that it is south of Capernaum, and it is when you look at the name in the Hebrew, it is referred to as Migdal, and which means tower. It's also called Magadan or Dalmanutha in some gospel accounts, but biblically speaking, one of the greatest things or one of the most significant things known about Magdala is it is the home of Mary Magdalene, who was a devoted follower of Christ, and you can go and read that account, Luke chapter 8, and I actually have some pictures of this. Probably one of the coolest things that I saw excavation-wise that outside of Shiloh, whenever I got to see the excavation where they believe that the tabernacle had once been. But there's a first century synagogue that they have discovered in Magdala. And again, it's just a few key scriptures. If you go to Matthew chapter number 15 and verse 39. This is where Jesus went to the region of Magdala, and which is here is referred to as Magdala. He sent away the multitude and took a ship and came into the coasts of Magdala. So Jesus spent time here, Luke chapter number 8, in verse number 1. It says, and it came to pass afterward that he went throughout every city and village, preaching and showing the glad tidings of the kingdom of God. And the 12 were with him, and certain women which had been healed of evil spirits and infirmities, Mary called Magdalene, out of whom went 7 devils, and Joanna, the wife of Chuza, Herod's steward, and Susanna, and many others which ministered unto him of their substance. So, here we find a little bit more about Mary Magdalene and the what she had been healed from. But she traveled with Jesus and supported his ministry. Again, this is her hometown. And, in John chapter 20 and verses 1 through 18, we see that Mary Magdalene was, what was she the first to see? Jesus. After what? After his resurrection. And again, the hometown, if you will, of Mary Magdalene. You can go, I have quite a few pictures, I think, of this, and we'll go. This is, obviously they didn't have that nice sign there whenever Mary Magdalene was there, but this is going in. That whole area of Magdala is really, it's nothing more than an excavation site. Just to be honest. And so it's got a lot of stuff around it. You can go to the next slide. This is that synagogue, that first century synagogue that they have excavated there. And you kind of get a picture. This would be going into that synagogue. And, I can't break all of it down for you and tell you what each room represented and what each section was. They didn't have those nice cedar posts there and covering over it. Unfortunately, whenever it was built, but they have done a tremendous job of excavating that and finding that. Again, that is a first century synagogue. So I want you to think about this. That means that there is a real chance that Jesus could have been in that synagogue. That Jesus could have taught in that synagogue. Whenever he goes back to Magdala and shares, and he obviously spent time in synagogues in different cities, and so there's certainly a chance that in his time in Magdala that he could have been in that synagogue. You can go to the next. There's just more. You can see how get a little bit better idea of some of the outline of it. These are just pictures around from different angles. Those are mosaic tiles on the ground. That is the outline. That is the aerial view of Magdala and what it would have been. Obviously, you don't see. It's an older. That was more of an original back when they first started. But lots of excavation that has been done there to discover where that ancient city of Magdala was. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. They excavated that synagogue, yes, sir. I don't know. I guess there's always a chance that there's something under there, but I think that for the sake of not destroying the synagogue itself that was built there, I would venture to say they'll probably never go lower than, like when you see those mosaic tiles there, I really doubt they would go any lower than that for the sake of not destroying that. It's like, we have this in contact, and then it's here. We don't want to, for the sake of looking for something else that may be there, we have this. And so, I would say no. Well, I don't want to say no, there's not anything under it, but I would say that we'll never know. But you can see the walls. I mean, those are actual walls that were there at some point. Now, I don't know that those all go back to first century, but again, the synagogue itself is definitely a first century piece that they have found. Yeah, so that's where we drive. All this would have been underneath that somehow. How, again, we've talked about this on a lot of these whenever we talked about some of what took place at, even uncovering the Abrahamic altar at Megiddo. It's like, how does all that get covered up? We don't understand that here, because a lot of times when something is done, we clean it up, pile it up, and get rid of it. You push it down, and you whether it's block or you crush it up and all those things. But I don't know how all this stuff has gotten just covered up, other than the fact that Miss Pam brought out I think it was Wednesday night, that they're so landlocked that they just build, and they don't have all the space of getting rid of stuff. And one thing you don't see over there, you don't have landfills and all that kind of stuff. So it's almost like they just take and cover it up and start over. And so I don't know. Just so we'll talk about it, and then I don't know about this specific, what led them to here, other than maybe they knew of a geographical idea that maybe there's something here, and then they began doing the work to try to find it. When we get to a site in just a minute, I can tell you a little bit about how that one got found, and it was by coincidence, and I say coincidence, I don't really believe in coincidences, but it was by chance that they found it, and came across what they came across there. But you can go to the next slide. Absolutely. 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 Yeah, I mean, just start digging. No, y'all gonna go home in your backyard and start digging, ain't you? You probably ain't finding nothing there. So, well, it's like it's like I shared the story with you whenever we were, really, it was in a busy area, and we parked our bus on the side of the road, and we had an actual archaeologist with us, and we got off, and he took us to this little grassy area, and we were talking, and he was talking about some things, and it was a place that could have been like an area where there's a place in the Bible where it talks about that Mary and Joseph, as they were traveling to Bethlehem, stopped and rested, and this would have been a good central point where we stopped at, that they could have stopped and rested, and it would have been in a safe area. And so we're standing there, and it's just dirt around us. And so, he told somebody to take a bottle of water and pour it. And so they started pouring the water, and as the water washed away the sand that was there, you could see mosaics underneath it. And now there was nothing here. Like, it was just this, no sign of, hey, this isn't. So what that site is, I don't know. Will it be excavated? Will it be looked into more? I don't know. I have shared with you that there's certain archaeologists that try to keep things a little secret because they want to keep certain groups from coming in and buying it up, and claiming it, and trying to turn it into, and it also jeopardizes some of the jeopardizes some of the I can't even think of the right word to use. Yeah, I don't know about originality, I guess, maybe yes, in a sense. Authenticity of it. Because I shared with you, and I didn't put it in here, but, in Capernaum where, Peter's mother-in-law's house is believed, the area that it was believed to be in, there's now a big, thing built over it with, it takes away some of that authenticity. So, but very authentic in Magdala. You can go to the next slide, Brother Adam. All right, so from Magdala, we really didn't go anywhere else, I don't believe, that night. We went back to our hotel, and so that ended night 2 or day 2 of our trip, and we stayed at the Sea of Galilee, I think, for two nights, something like that. But the next morning we got up, and I believe is when we did our tour of the Sea of Galilee, and obviously there's all kinds of events that took place on the Sea of Galilee. You're familiar with Jesus walking on the water there. The Sea of Galilee is where Jesus, now what specific location we don't necessarily know, but they were somewhere probably up near Capernaum whenever Jesus called the disciples to come and follow him, and he would make them fishers of men. And we know we could sit here all night and talk about events that took place on the Sea of Galilee. Peter going back fishing and fishing all night and not catching anything, and then the Lord telling him to cast his net on the other side of the boat. And mind you, that's the carpenter telling the fisherman how to fish, and so he brought up enough fish that he could have sank his boat. And so we could go on and on and on, but there is something really that is when you're on the Sea of Galilee, there is just something that is, as long as I guess it's not storming, there is something extremely peaceful about it. And just to kind of take all that in is really something that is, amazing in and of itself. And, I look at it, and you'll see a picture of the Jesus boat in just a few minutes. But, for me, I always go back to the storm when Jesus came to the disciples walking on the water, and the fact that they had rowed as long as they rowed to get from one side of the Sea of Galilee to the other, but they weren't getting anywhere. And, when you think about the length and the width of the Sea of Galilee, it doesn't matter where they were coming from, they should have easily made it from one point to the other in a relatively decent amount of time. But obviously that gives you an idea of just how strong that storm was that they were in and unable to go anywhere. So the next pictures, I believe, are just pictures of the Sea of Galilee itself with some sights up. Nope, I lied. I went ahead and jumped. Listen, y'all, it's been a day. So this, go back. Can you go back one picture? So this is, let's see, where's it at? Gennesaret. Gennesaret is where this is, also known as Curtsy, also known as the area of Decapolis. Anybody have any ideas on any of those names, an event that may have taken place there? Nobody? Is it what? No, it is not the capital. All right, let me give you one more clue. This area is associated with the Gerasenes and the Gadarenes. The maniac of Gadara. maniac of Gadara. And so that is Kirtzy is the place that is believed to have happened based on biblical references and just the location in general, again, being the area of the Gerasenes and the Gadarenes. It's where Jesus would have came to the madman that was held up in the tomb, according to Mark chapter 5. And one of the things to note about that is the Gerasenes and the Gadarenes were not Jews. They were Gentiles, thus making it a little bit more clear as to the fact that there were swine there, right? They had pigs. And so, they weren't Jews. And so Jesus here demonstrated his authority over spiritual forces and his compassion for this man. And so when you see the pictures, it creates to me, maybe it doesn't, maybe it won't for you, and it does a little bit more being there, but you get a picture of, it's obviously very, very close to the Sea of Galilee, which is where those swine ran into and drowned themselves. But we can go ahead and look at the pictures, Brother Adam. So, yep. If you can see off in the distance, there's those white railings. That's where you walk up to go up to the side of the mountain. That's where the next pictures will be taken from. And so that is taken from up there on that cliff side. And that is looking directly off of that out to the Sea of Galilee out there. Now, obviously, those all that wasn't there whenever that took place, but that's agriculture there, obviously. A lot of banana trees in there and things. But you kind of get a picture of how those swine would have ran and went straight on out into the Sea of Galilee. You can go to the next picture. I thought this was neat. Obviously, I don't know that this is the place. But when you're there, you begin to take and picture things in your mind, or at least I did. And up on the side, we couldn't get to this without trying to mountain climb, and that doesn't look that terrible. But I wouldn't have climbed it. But that is a tomb right there. It's just you can see it's even got the walling on the front, and then there's an opening. And I'm very surprised that nobody has made something at least to go up there to it. It may be private property, I don't know. But this is actually part of like one of what would be our national parks. This is Kirtzy's Park. And so, anyway, I thought that was interesting that was right there. And again, also you get a little bit better of a picture going down the side. Then it's facing straight out to the Sea of Galilee. So I guess I didn't adjust that picture to fill the slide. Anybody know what that is? Nope. What do you think they grind with that? Everything. Everything. It is. That's a grinding stone. And you can see, they would take and put that. This is inside of an area, and this is where I was telling you. So, and I didn't put a lot of pictures in it because it's really not a biblical site. It's more of just historical piece. But go to the next. I think the next slide is just So there's a site there that has. It almost looks like an auditorium that they've discovered there. And when you go, but they found this back in 1967. They came across this site. And they found it because they were putting a road through. And when they were scraping the dirt, clearing the way, they discovered the flooring of what this building is, which it wasn't a monastery. It wasn't a synagogue either. It was a little bit later, like maybe the 4th century. somewhere along those lines. But anyway, just some of the stuff they find just by chance. I mean, they don't even, they came across. Now, obviously, I think some of the other pieces, they know geographical locations and possible ideas. But that particular place where that grinding stone was, that whole area they found just by chance. It was all grown up and covered up, and so could be. Yeah, very possible. They don't. If they tear it up, they tear it up. If they'd torn that up, they'd never known if they hadn't been paying attention. So I believe the next slide is just pictures of the Sea of Galilee. Yeah, it is. So these are from the Sea of Galilee. We took our boat tour here that day. And if you look straight ahead, anybody know what that is? Mount Arbel. Good job. I was really thinking I was going to have to go back and teach that whole thing again. That is Mount Arbel, straight ahead. And you can see over to the right where Magdala would be of that. And so that tomb was not at Arbel. That tomb was at a different location. Yeah, tomb was at Kirksey. He's checking me. I appreciate that. Keep me in line. Absolutely. When it comes down in there, in between there, and it's like that all the way around. I mean, it's just mountainous all the way around it, and so it just sits kind of down in the fish bowl, if you will. When it does storm, it's not good. It's rough. It's kind of windy anyway, even on a good day. But you can go to the next slide. So that is looking over at the backside of Capernaum. You can't really see a lot of it, but that is on the backside of Capernaum as we rode by on the boat on the Sea of Galilee. You can go to the next slide. Next slide. This is kind of neat because if you see where that building is up on the top of the hill, we came down and walked around and come out just a little bit closer, probably 100 yards from where that building is, and stood, and it's a hill. And so that particular area, and I don't have a picture of it, I don't guess. I'm sure I do somewhere. But that particular area is believed to be where the Sermon on the Mount was delivered. And one of the reasons it's really held to believe that is because of there's some that think that Arbel is where the Sermon on the Mount may have been held, but that area, it was very interesting, because Jesus had a crowd of followers whenever he delivered the Sermon on the Mount. And when you go, and you can't really tell it from this picture, but it's sloped just enough that whenever you go down, and if people are seated or standing on that hill, it almost acts like a natural amphitheater. And so it makes it very clear how such a great crowd of people would have been able to have been there and heard the teachings like they did. But you could go and you could talk very normal. And it was just like the person had a microphone whenever they talked. It was just that clear. And the way the sound carried. But that area up in there is believed to be a possible site of where the Sermon on the Mount would have been delivered by Jesus. You can go to the next. That's a little bit closer look at Arbel as we got closer. And you can see, obviously, you see all the other little boats out there. They ain't really that little, but those are obviously different tour groups that are out there doing their tour. I never saw it. That's one thing I never saw in Israel was a Dollar General. But don't think they're probably not trying to figure out how they can get in there. That's right. So, again, that's just a little bit closer look at Arbel. That is a Jesus boat. That's what they call it. That is a boat that was discovered, I don't remember the exact dates, but really not all that long ago, on the shores of the Sea of Galilee. And amazing that it was held in as good of tact as it was, but that is believed to be from about the time period of Jesus, of that boat. And, you know, I'd have been a little scared in the storm on that water too. Amen. I'm just saying. I'd have been waking him up in either that, or I'd have been scared when we was trying to get across, whichever. Yeah, so interesting to kind of get a visual. Ma'am, no, it's fresh water.
Brother Jerry, I noticed on the map that the Jordan River flows into
And then flows back out. Yep.
and then back out down.
Yep. Yeah, in fact, over near where Arbel is, I believe, is kind of where it might start coming back out. I think I could be wrong on that, but yes, the Sea of Galilee or the Jordan River starts at the northern part. It flows down off of Mount Hermon and flows down through. And as we journey on up a little bit further north in future studies, you'll see. It's beautiful water when it comes off of Mount Hermon. I mean, it is just as pure and clear. And we've talked about Caesarea Philippi and how they were forced to go and worship the pan god before they could get any water. And they'll see that water as it flows right through that area, and it's just as beautiful. It flows down through Dan. We've looked at that. But, it's just absolutely beautiful. But it flows down, and it flows into the Sea of Galilee, and then it flows back out and keeps on going. And the further south it goes, the nastier it gets. Just because of the sand and the mud, and it's just not as up. Northern part of Israel is very green, very clean. And then as it gets down further south, you get more desert, more that type of stuff, so it just makes the water muddy there. No, so the brown is the boat. The metal is just what they have around it to keep it intact. It's just wood.
Well, they talk about going down. Jesus was in the bottom of the boat or whatever, sleeping. They woke him up.
Probably just laying there.
Okay, because I'm not worried.
Yeah, probably just we in our minds we think when they went down and woke him up that he went down underneath, and they had yeah. I don't think the disciples had a yacht. I don't think they had a houseboat. So I would venture to say that Jesus was probably just sleeping in the middle of the boat. And yes, right. Well, right. Probably not much, though. Can't be much bigger when you look at the way that it comes up on the sides. There couldn't be much more, a whole lot to it. That's right. It was a fishing boat. That's right. So, and I meant to put it on there. I'll just have to put it on Wednesday night's slide. But after we went to the Jesus Boat Museum and looked at that, we went and ate lunch, and that's where I ate Peter's fish. And it's the only time I've ever ate fish that still had the eyeballs in it. But it was good. I'll tell you this. It was good. But I had to do it just because I couldn't go and not eat St. Peter's fish, is what they call it. Anyway, so yeah, it was. And I won't go into any other I don't know if that's how they ate it back in the day or not, but I won't go into any other details of what somebody else found in theirs. But we'll just go on because we went to Capernaum after we left the Jesus Boat Museum, and so obviously Capernaum. Another fishing and trade village that's located on the northern shore of the Sea of Galilee, and it was the base of Jesus' earthly ministry and ministry in Galilee specifically. Jesus called this his own city. Even though he was from Nazareth, he referred to Capernaum as his own city, and a lot of miracles happened there. And again, I've shared with you about Peter's mother-in-law's house, and the synagogue ruins are still visible to this day. Those are some key archaeological sites, and again, the whole place, and you'll see in the first picture is really a good, I think it's a good overview, if I put it in the right place, of Capernaum. And so you can go ahead and go to the next slide. Nope, didn't put it in the right place, but we'll get there. There it is. And so, see that big, right there in the middle, big dome-looking thing? Y'all, can everybody see it? That is what I told you they have built over that site. That is the building that they built over that. So that is not, but you can look and see. It's kind of neat whenever you look at it, the aerial view. You can see the squares and the outlines of where other home sites may have been. You've got on the back this way towards the bottom, the big open place. That is the synagogue that was there, and so, and obviously, it's included in our tour. But yeah, I think they do charge admission to go in for groups. But probably something like what they would charge, to get into a national park here. They charge stuff like that there. And so this is just some pictures from inside of Capernaum. Remember, I told you can see right here, if we'll stop for just a second, see that lower part, how it's real dark on the bottom? That's a different time period. And so they built right on top of what they had there. I wouldn't. It's not passing code. That's for sure. You can go to the next slide. You can see that's just looking out over all the different. And when you're there, you can kind of see how little. Obviously they're not major roads, but you can see how little you have entrances into to certain places, and where you can tell there was a doorway and things of that nature. Probably just little. Even right here to the right or right in front of this little white piece, you see the little narrow entrance. That probably would have been an entrance into a home that was there. And then off to the right, you can kind of see on the corner, that's where that big covering is over the home site. Well, this has been excavated for a while, so this is not an active excavation site. This is something that I think they're kind of done. They've done what they're going to do, so I don't know how many they had working on it at one time. And there's so many people. There's hundreds of people that go over there every month that do different. There's people going over now to Shiloh, where they believe that the tabernacle was set up there, and they have found evidence of that being a good possibility of the location. But there's people that go over there all the time, and that's just what they do. Some take groups over, whoever wants to go to participate and do stuff, and so all kinds of groups go and do that. No, it has to be done delicately. So, yeah, it's probably not a fast process for sure. You can go to the next slide. Again, just more. That's inside the synagogue. And that's it.
finally put that thing on her face, and that eye looked at me. I said, I don't believe I want none of that.
Yeah. Yeah, the one I had was pretty good. I still prefer a good fillet over, having to pick around all the bones and all that. But now, just so y'all know, before I pastored here, I'd never eat the tail of a fish. It's pretty good. It's pretty good, I got to say. So you get it good and crispy, and it tastes just good. It tastes all right. So, but anybody have any thoughts, comments, or questions tonight?